So my understanding is that you are in the groups you are, at the tables you are, because biology was very directed about how they set up the groups.
Is
that true? Okay. So do you like your groups? It doesn't matter. You have to stay in them. So we are staying in the same groups you're in, but we want to change where you're sitting. So, yeah. So your same table, but the first row will go to the back. Right? The second row will come forward. And so everybody just moves up. So the back row will be in the middle will be in the front will go to the back. Okay, great. We're back. Did you move? Okay. All right. Okay. So, neuroscience. Who likes neuroscience? No, you don't have to tell me that. If your favorite is physics, that's fine. It's fine. If biology is your favorite, that's fine. You're wrong, but it's fine. Okay. So no more inside jokes just for the English speakers, right? So we'll have to. So I feel fortunate to be back here with you. As you know, I'm the unit leader for neuroscience for the sustainability phase. So I'll remind you that what I really want at the end of this week that we have together is for you to be comfortable in at least one neuroscience lesson. So what I'm thinking is you might have expertise, like I said, you might like physics or you might like biology, life sciences, but you still have to teach neuroscience. So I want everyone to feel comfortable to teach something.
So what
some of what we will be doing is reminding and reviewing neuroscience content, but some of what we'll be doing is talking about how to teach that neuroscience content. Another thing that is very important to me in science education is how comfortable the students are. So the students need to feel like they're part of the process. And I understand that the structure of the education system looks a little bit different in your context than in where I'm teaching.
다단다 cirkinga su shiyen gul hopsu gi drum shiji orwati tanda chisu gi nesage tetang ane ngarang yongsate turbai bana tiga parola ya chapter dus.
But one of the things that's very important to me in my classes is to set a culture for the class so that we know and understand how to interact with each other.
Da tin stambala ya nga su gi chin zentran tiga nang la ya ane karsu gre ta nga su gi region senan tiga nga su zentran tiga nang ne ta chi kanda no chi gugu yu me gi chi ne tante chi khasa u chu zo shaba imbai na ne tela tene de ta nga su zentran nang ta chi drelam chi yung gorwa drelati khasa u tang tab diu gon yong tkres.
And I tell my students at Emory that there are no stupid questions.
Da tanda Emory la ngil hop tutsla current desija go system bala ya ani druati tapete druati ta karsa chapchung drua shita resha se tina do yo mares drua chapchung yo mares.
If you don't believe me, one of the peer mentors who is here with the other group of scholars was in my class last semester, and we were talking last night, and she will tell you that that is absolutely true.
Da tanda de la ya hop tu kha chil he de to apkin Emory la ya pa penye kusula ya rokpa chinye ki hop tu kha chil he to tina ne pumuti imbanan nanyelo ngarang zindana ne dus zindana ki hop tu chi yens ne tanda ge ne tanda che sumola ke jet da ne moge te tata imba deshe jagdes.
So for this morning session, we just want to set some expectations and do some reminding of what we're here for.
Da tanda tiringi shopa ga sotande kapsa nga suge ane nga suge riwaj kare chi gi me ta ane nga suge kanado chi gi me gi charshiti kola ya ngutu chi yes.
So I have some slides just to introduce myself. No worries. Okay, thank you, Michael. Oh, it's working now? All right, here we go. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So I know the Sarah folks. Anybody from Sarah J, Sarah May, Tashilompo? Yes? Those are my friends. You've met me before, yes? Yeah. The rest of you are my new friends.
Pa belog open which on the page samangana tropo nimbares and the gender samangana tropo sawains.
So I wanted these pictures I showed last year as well. I use these slides every time I give a talk. That's me. I'm Jillian Hugh.
Tata de la Tampana Shangaran Kitchepe Casa and the Ganyan Chigan attention to the 10 years, Naramila, Jillian Hughes years.
And just here's a list of some of the things I find really interesting and compelling. When I tell you that I use these slides everywhere, I do have a group of monks playing with neurons that I show to everyone.
Tanda de Galaya, Anenga, Mutuche, Karakarela go, Mela Supani Tankachko, yes, Tanda Deshijabananshi, Narangitamchi, Kapsugit, and the Perndi Katim, Banatangi, yes, Deshijabananshi, and the Tinalaya, Nidelaya, Gintumba Kachike, and once it has it reached that which parts to what? They by name Katin and Dustangi, yes.
Does anybody recognize themselves in this picture? I'm not sure who's in there. You're in this? No, Calvin, which one are you? No. So I think Cindy took this picture. But it's a very important part of my life. And then these are my children. And I put a recent photo. So this is my group now. My mom lives with us now. Here's my son, right, who is that guy. But he's taller than I am now. And my daughter. So this is my family.
The leper catch you, but then Arange teens, Nami ins, and the Kimag party, Nichag party ins, and put the Kimaleo, but the Chambu Chatter Motil is put on what the Nami party ins.
So why am I spending time telling you about who I am? Because I think it's important for you to understand that what I want to get out of this relationship. And I think that's something that's really helpful in science education.
Aha, that and that day by Nangi, the Shakuno Jinsentical Stambalanga, Sulaya Chita, de la Gigin to Hop Chicken Rochi Chagoyorwa, Doa Digi Caps, De la Jude Tengala Karichi Ramara said the United That dinner Dogan Rewate, and it's Henry Kill Hopsuchi Gorwa, Henry Kill Hopsu, Henry Kishian on like H and which Hagis.
So one of the things I'm very interested in science is how what you bring to the questions, what questions you ask are definitely driven by who you are and what you've experienced.
That is tambala ya tanda Santa Claus na ne ke chishi kare sis tambala cherangi zinta tang sutan de kas twa kare chi tang ma tang sa te chorong sui ma yen la ra le ki yore chorong sui yen men te la te de te ni chorong ke twa kare chi tang ma tang te ani thacho yong gores.
So you will be teaching in the monasteries, which is also where you live. So the people that you're teaching are part of your family.
That chemala chetu zinta thiba imbana chen zinta de thiba imbana cherang thisa gi lopri te ya ta gomba tagara yon stambala ya chorong gi thisa gi lopri te imbana chorong ge ta nami gi chashi shag yores.
And one of the things I think is really important in education is having that personal relationship so you can understand where the other person is coming from, what difficulties they might be having, and where they have excellence.
This tambala ya cheriki ani chi lopsu na ne ta ke chi shiti kala na chorong gi thisa gi lopri ti gi japjung kana do yeme korang la ya ni shencha ta de kana do yeme korang la ya kange kana do chi the yeme ni korang la ya lakcha se gura zang cha kar yeme ti ha gu gu de nengaris.
So I will always share stories. Stories are a really important part of the way I believe in education.
Tangi ka tu imba na dus drong tin ngutu chi yo drong tang loji tin ngutu chi yo stis tambala ya ani lopsu shion lopsu gna ne ani drong ti ani ko ngutu chi ya gi ani ko karsu kre ta lakcha ma so na ke chembu chi chak dus.
And with that, I want to introduce you to my colleague Michael Black, who will give his own introduction. But he is joining us, and we will both be teaching this week.
Tanda ngarangi ropa ge Michael lage ngutu chigres ge Michael la ta ngarangi ki tanda dun thande la ne te awansa serin de jati yes.
Oh, look at Michael adding his thing. Okay. Got it? Oh, swap.
Batteries fell out when I was walking. I think I put it in wrong or something.
No worries.
Take battery starter ko aloja insere.
Oh, yeah. So, I am Michael. I have my PhD from Georgia State University.
Ngara mi lai Michael Segius ngara tanda barambati Georgia ngadi Georgia ge sulhota chamundi thambayens.
And I, like Jillian, have a goal for you in this class.
Ta tanda gen jilen la ge tanda thonsen de tribikas ane mugi kari chiksingu yo meten de japsons.
And that goal is, I want you comfortable with the two of us to ask us questions if you have any questions, not just during class, but after class is over.
Ta tanda ngaran ge riwade karin system balaya ane chetu chama na gen jilen ta ngaran ji la ya this karsan dribu tang debo tang tinda do yong ayens dribu tang debo yong ya te ya chi dwa kari chi yo pain bana tria la ya debo tang dru yong ate yes ni jiba te tria te yang zinda na kap chi pu mai ba zinda tonu je la ya chi sula dro yo pain bana ni ngaran ni la chi ta lu dru tang deu gang ne drit kha chi gorwa ti tanda ngaran gam gi te yes.
Like Jillian, I very much value story in teaching because I think people relate to story.
Ta gen jilen ge swa na singara in ba na ya chi tripi capsule function tripi capsule function gi joshi ti drong tong nyam ta chi dewa ta chi thya chi goro ti ke chen bu si yo skar chi ba na nga su ge chi singkur chen chi ji stam ba la ya ane ko drong tong dewa ta ga te la ya kar su ko ta ten hawa ta te la ya ti gi nyu ba ti shu chen bu thong dus.
And he's probably going to be embarrassed for me calling him out, but Calden and I wrote an academic paper about using story in teaching.
Da chichi ba na ngi dus mila ba na chichi na ngu non do khores gen kanden ta ngaran ni ba na ane chi lopta na ne zinta tripi caps ane drone pe chu ta ti ko la ya so mi chi dus strategy pe yes.
With a nun, Tukten, who is also here at the nunnery.
aha ge tanda chela ro thupten la tangyam ti yoris
So I very much value animals,
aha da nga bana tilaya social go yes
and I love to scuba dive underwater.
aha ta chugi tinglaya manzo chigorwa tilago yes
So the pictures that you see here are me underwater scuba diving.
aha da da de le pagna thomba de chu de ro ko chugo tinglaya jun ro chi to ga ti parti na yes
And this was last weekend. These are corals. They look like rocks on the bottom, but they're animals.
aha da da de ka la na dun thong ma je ju parti na res tan di na la yo ni gi chi to wa de ta nga chu churu yo churu khor la ko churu sa de res ta im ba na du sta ba na ko tagdu do chu yor da im ba na yang ko so cha res
And they've been killed in large measure in the United States.
aha ta ari la im ba na tan da ge churu gi chilung gi yor wa tan da de im ba na ko pe ta ha chang ta phon chen bu shu din ra ko se sha gi res
They're threatened globally by climate change.
aha ta nam sin churu la ten de tan zamlong chön yong la ya ko la ya nyen kha the de res
And so we grow them on these structures, and then we take them and we affix them underwater so that they can grow anew.
aha da da de ba na nga su kar chi ko res system ba la ya tan da ge de la ya ko pa chin do a chang da ko kha chi do de ga la ya tan da ge churu din da ko te ga te len dem zi chi de dem zi chi nu je la ko kala kan sen ser chi nu je la ya ne ko chu gi ting la ya song du ko pa zu sha gi res
Another thing that's really important to me is teaching. Some of the folks from Sarah might recognize some of these people from Sarah May.
na ha jen de chi ga la ba na nga ra ta ti ta chen lan zen da the ti yin sta ti ba na chi chi na pa la ya se ra den phen khwa chi kin din na yo pi par na yo pi ko su chi chi ngu shin da ko res
Unlike Jillian, I'm going to be completely honest with you and say that I don't usually have this picture in my intro slide.
aha ta ge jilen ta man ro la ngi kare chi khilen chi yo se stam ba ngi ngu tro chi be kap se pha zo ko par te tak par yo yo ba chi me sting ngi ngar ngi le chi yes
This is my family.
aha te ngar nang me yes
I like to vacation with them, and I spent a month last year for the month of June going around to different national parks in the United States.
aha ta ngar ba na chlo la du ka ga yo dis ta ma na ni lo ane chi da tu ba kan sa la ya na mi tlan ta ari gi ta ko je kar sa je nang ge chilang tin da yo ro ling ka tin da yo ro tin da la cham chen chin ba yes
For that month, we lived in a vehicle that was about this size.
aha ta te gi da wa chi ti rang la ya nga su ta lang khor wa chi chung tin da ro chi ba ti nang la ya du s de ba yes
For most people in the United States, they would kill each other if they were that close to each other.
aha ta ari na mi phe chi wa la ya sa cha tin da chong chong chi kana ne du s ta nyu de ba ba na phe chi pa su san da ko res
So that shows you how much my family is close.
aha ta ti ka song re system nga su na mi ka chu lu nyu ta tha nyu yo pa song ge yes
This is my son who is taller than me,
aha
and my son who is still shorter than me.
aha da ko ron pun ni char do chi ko tin zu purang wa do jen de ko tin zu pu chwa yes
This is my sister,
aha ko a cha yes
and my dad and my mom.
pa la ta ma la yes
And this is my wife.
aha ngarang ge zada yes
I owe her a debt of gratitude
aha da ko la ya ta mu ngala ka ta ha tan chen yes
because she's watching my kids for the next 2 weeks.
ka sra na de ta ma wa gi tan tha ni ga na sa ko ra ni ga la mo ge ne nga pu ni sa ta pu la ta de ge yes
And to add on top of that, today is our 20th wedding anniversary.
aha da din sam ba la te ga la ya tan da ane kuran de changsa jab chi lu ni shi ko ge de chen di ins
So if you ever come to Atlanta to visit,
ke ti chara Atlanta la dus phe ba chona
you need to tell my wife thank you.
aha 제쪽에 니 지멜라야 트위치 슈구레스.
I got to pass it back to Jillian.
타게 질랭게 메타로나스.
Actually, am I on?
Yeah. No.
I'm not on. I don't know. I mean, my voice is loud enough, but I suspect you need it for the recording, right? How about now? Yeah?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. So I actually need to thank Michael's wife because at the last minute I asked him to join me on this trip. So I owe her.
Ngarang ngone ge Michael ge zadala thuchi shugu duskarchila bana thama tis letter yo stambala ane Michael Pedagogy shi kuthiyon bains.
Okay.
That reminds me of one thing.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Andy Kazama sends his welcome and tashi delay to everyone.
Andy Kazama dadanga suge gela churo amarina tanda mangpong ngusing dela triga yong ta peche sera dola mangpo peoro ko ge samla tashi delo shurti sungudus.
Last year, Andy gave the Action Potential lecture for us, if you remember Andy Kazama from last year. So he definitely wants to be with you again and sends his good wishes.
Nanilo imbana ge Andy lage ngasugi diorwa Action Potential yorwa ti kola yan zinda chiores chichina tathone chiores ko thonsin chirwa ti chichina tembasin khores.
All right, so let's get down to business.
Ta ngasugi di nguzukos.
So you'll remember this from last year, or maybe you won't, but that's why we have them again, we'll remind you.
Tanti chichina nanilo ngasu ten yore chichina tembasun do khores ke de tembasu su me paina nindela ya ngasu ten su chitu ko yes.
So if you're one of the monastics, you have already completed the 6-year curriculum in the Emory Tibet Science Initiative.
Ta chichu paina emer to boch senri lerang lutri ke chi ti orwa leram ti chichu ta chabres.
And if you are a teacher, a science teacher, this might be a little new.
Da karsa keti ya dela ya senri gigem paina chichina paina this ya sabanu in khores.
And I think some of the science teachers, who here is trained in neuroscience as a science teacher?
Dada senri gendo chichuna once senri la ya janjan ju den sures. Chundile once senri.
Yeah, you're neuroscience? Nice. What's your background? Physics, see? Yeah. Your biology, close? Yeah. Who else?
Gelagare.
Biology? Yeah. So physics, the action potential, that's all we have for you. Yeah, that's as close as it gets, and that's actually really closer to chemistry, but you know, we try. Like there's movement of ions is kind of like electricity. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we try to make it fit. All right, so what we're trying to do is use the strength of the 6-year curriculum that you already have.
Ta ngasu garichigi insena ngasu la ya lutruki ko lapshi chi dusha yorwa re maria. Ti ngasu ko pecho ta ya chigorwa o tchi ains.
As you might remember, the 6-year curriculum is based on the pilot program, which was actually 5 years, and then they added an introductory year.
Da chichi bai na ngasu ge tanda lutruki tirwa ta ngasu ge ti ta laktar gi ramba tirwa ti ga nge la ya ngasu ge chiga ngondu ge tadrik gi ramba chi yores tadrik gi ramba te chi tam bai na ngore tana lu nga res wa ta lu nga gi ti ga la ya ngasu ge ta ngotro go lu chi jeb chi lu tuk zu sha res.
So who are the veterans that have been involved with ETSI since the original pilot program?
Da tambo tila ngasu ngotro ramba chi gorwa ta o tene na tlen zu shi chi ni su yores ke nga ma yorora.
Let's see.
Sarala chwatirwa sarala.
Yes? So you went to Dharamsala for the first 5-year program, then you sat through the 6-year curriculum again, and now you're in the sustainability phase. Come up here and teach the class.
That's sure.
That is now, okay. All right. So you understand the context of the program and what we're
that is tambala ya chesu nga su dela ya chi zinda chia gi chi ju shikha yorwa ta kanda chi imbatin kutsku yores.
We have a wealth of resources that are available to you.
Ta nga su le dela ya chesu pechu ta ya gi chi ta tisi gi ikcha kha yorwa ye che tenda te ha cha mambu yores.
But one of the things I want to be careful about is that the slide decks and all of the primers and everything that you have, they're great resources, but there are other things.
ta ta ngi chetsula tensu ta chi karin se ba na chetsula ya lokte yo re tin an singi ta te nyam perzu sha ju chi ro lokto nyam perzu sha ju chi din mangpu chi yo res ya ma data ka re se na data ta nga su gi ta kar su gu ta je shi gi yicha ro chi cha gi yo res.
So the 6-year curriculum is there, the slides are there, but one of the important things about science and scientific inquiry is how it continues to develop and evolve.
ta te ta yue ba res wa ne nga su thabar de chen ri kina ne tan disel shi sha bi chen ko lob su na ne kala na ko ta chen ri ki ju shi ta shi sha te ta me tu ku yar jen du gu yo ro du gu yo res.
So some memorizing is important, but more than that, being able to apply new knowledge is really, really important in science.
ta chigi bana ko ne tang kha shi ti ngak chor ta ta tam ba su chi ta ke chen bu res ta ti li ke chi wa de ani shi sha sar ba ti pe shu ta chi ro wa ti li ha chin ke chen bu cha go res.
And I find that it's definitely more impactful, it has a greater impact if students understand why they are learning what they're learning.
ta ti ne ta ti ta do ti le ku kar su ro ta nuwa thön ba chi ka ti ung re se na thop tru ku su gi jang shin ba te kari chen ni jang yo re se ga jun sen ti thop tru ku su ba na nu thon sin thi ba dang ku su jang ba de le nuwa shu chen bu thong res.
So some of what I want to do is for you to understand why we have the curriculum that we have, and also to find out from you what you value, what you find important, and what you want to put an emphasis on.
ta nga su che de karin se na ti nga su chi lu de ke ta lhap shi ti na la te to yue ba de kar chi ne yim ba ge jin sen chi che ti je la ya che chu ngu ne ti ti na ro chi yue ba ta ti na na ya ren thang kan ro chi thong gi yue me de nga su ge ane chi ga to par chi gi yens.
So I will use the neuroscience core concepts that are written by the Society for Neuroscience.
Sorry.
The Society for Neuroscience, the core concepts. So these are developed by the Society for Neuroscience, and so that's what we're going to be using for our curriculum.
Okay. ta nga su de la ya ne awan sa chari tan de wi ge ta ku ge ta chu nyem bu kha chi yor wa de tan da zu ni de tan da ari ge ta ko awan sa chari ke chode chi to ga ku chu zu sha ji ro wa de nga chu shi sha chi tre gi yens.
Does anybody know what the Society for Neuroscience is? If you do, just tell me.
ta da awan sa chari ke chode sa chi to ga de gari ye me ha ku ni yo e sa.
No, so you don't know. So you're just you know? Yes, tell me. Society for Neuroscience.
As per my understanding, so it has been like developed around 50 years, something like that. And this is like where all the neuroscientists come together and discuss about it, and they share their articles and something like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes. Do you need to
Yeah,
translate?
ta ko ngarang ge chi shi che ti shi sha ba na ngarang ge shi ta ba na ta ko ta da wan sa chen ge chode sa te ta he che halam lu nga chin ro chi la ne ba de ro chi re ta ko su yin ba na ne wan sa chai ru ba ko su nyam tin jom de te ne ko su ge chi che sum ta song mi tang tin ro nyam te tri de chi sa tang par pe sa ge ne ko din che cha ge res.
So this is our international organization that has members, probably about 30,000 members, who are neuroscientists interested in neuroscience or devoted to neuroscience in some way.
ta de ko je chi ki chode chi che ko na la halam chome thi sum chi yo res ta de kap se khashi ba na wan sa chai ru pa che khashi ba na wan sa chai ru la ga ni tin de che khashi ba na ya wan sa chai ru ga la ya chi tu na chi ni tin de ro wa o tin de ro nyam te trip ki chode chi res.
And every October or November, all the nerds get together to talk about neuroscience.
ta chi da chwa chok chi to lu tak pa chi da chwa chi chi te la ya ne ko su chond du chu de ta ne ta na wan sa chai ru tin de wi ki ro lang tin na nang yo res.
So this group came together and they sent out questionnaires, and they essentially asked all the neuroscientists what do you think are the most important things for neuroscientists to know?
That is the Balaya Kusunyam and John Balatanate, Kusugita, Joachi Tanguris, the Wansa Henry Pakusugi, Hakuguegi, the Jushi Ketchishitaka race, draw the trio race.
And so they came up with a list of 8 ideas.
That is the Bakechit Stambala Kutsulaya, Ane Angasugita, Samsas and Tatsut in the Ketchambo Jet, and it Tuchi Duston race.
I have used those 8 ideas, themes, concepts to organize our curriculum.
This Tambalaya, Nara in Baina, Tanda Kutsu, Tempechi Jugieta, Namshak Senata Tsusena, Tenor J or the picture Tangatanga to Lapsidi Dusha, yes?
I just want to add in, no, I guess I don't. I just want to add in that they asked us when they were making these ideas, what should be the top ideas. And I told them that ethics should be one of them and techniques should be another. And they ignored me.
Ketchet on strip game, Banakusun, the Tachepe Kapsa, once a Sarupakusa Ketchet to Lagdoa. And a Kola Ketchet Stambala, Tatsuina, Samsuina, Ketchambo, Pangrichitrochis, Dusta, Nine by na Ketchet Trisons, Lenticarisha in Baina, Tampote, and Kunchus, the Ketchambuchagadus, Shebayens, and the techniques, Stambala Tapshichi or Tapshiti Ketchambures, Tishabayens, in Vanangala and Nametan Chassons.
They said, of course, those are important, and all of the things will incorporate those.
That the Ketchambures, and the Chishaba the Ketchambures, that Adangazuke, Chita, don't know how Maganala Churanga Shepati, Nalaya Chita, Dre Devachiris, Jesus.
But I think they just said that to keep me quiet.
Naranga Sansen Bana Kusukitina, which is shaking, and Kusum Shag Tapsitanshas.
So you'll learn about those too.
Jesu Tia, Tanda Jangares.
Actually, Michael makes a really important point. Half of what I teach at Emory is ethics.
That and again, Michael, like somebody has a get Chambuchagudus, Naranga Palaya, Emory Laya, Zentatripi, Capsic, Trishing on the Cheka, Chita de Colians, Kunchu Colians.
I actually started a minor, which is, you have your major, you pick the subject you want to study, and then you have another subject you want to study. And I started a minor in neuroethics. So that's my program, and so I think ethics is, of course, very important.
That Adangara in Bana, Emory Laya, Chejangsu, Pewaji or what, Susu Chejangsu, de Laya, Susuchi Jangra, the Sholaya, Chejang Pewachilla Jan and Gores, that Chejang Pewatilaya, Nara in Bana Pala, once as Henry Gunchus, and Dus Pala, Unzuchi, that Dus, Ane Tila, something to 2 years.
And to give the Society for Neuroscience a little bit of compliment, they definitely have checked in with us, my colleague and I, and several of the people we work with about neuroethics content for the website.
Tanda Angasu once a Seneca Sotichiro, once a Sote Kutsula, Kutsugia, Natsuga, Murilaya, Zentrati, Kandasan, Drugu, Yemeta, Tignane, Kanadu, Chigu, Metakusu Pazula, Trajagan, like Koyachito, Nanga Tangarangale, Rotazula, Tandagi, and Emerilla, Pig, once a Seneca Kunchu, once a Seneca Kunchu Sachigora, a Tikola, Kusuga Ketchetrasons.
And in the next Society for Neuroscience meeting in the fall, I'll be running a professional development workshop along with some other colleagues on exactly that.
Taluge, once a send, once a Seneca Sonduchi or Watalu, Tunkatswa, Tigi, Kasimbana, Natangaranga, Lero Kachkungunit, and the Jushitaran and Devi, Subjonchi, Sukusula, Koduchis.
So they listened a little, Michael, but not listed in the 8.
And they, I contacted them and said that I was very disappointed that
They didn't include ethics in this list. So they invited me to write a paper about why I thought ethics should be on this list.
Good.
So if you're willing to work as hard as Calden did,
Tanda Kuga Ketchetriba Yens Tanga this Palaya, and Tandelaya list. Kutu J or Warwa, to Jaganatali, Gala Somba Kinchutil Maris, this number Kun Devachi Bayens, then Devachi Stambala Kusuka, Devachi Chingalu Ponchons, Conchuti Sukundeg, 2 Jaganal Hemdus, Kisha Bayens, this is Stambala Kusuka Chisonsena, and 가리치네 다 인가라야 단 전쇼스 거와 단 전쇼 가리나서는 좀이 지트가 전쇼 다서 다 좀이테 저런 게 삼신 바나 근처 세티 투 디그나텔 가리치니 해부그레 세티 콜라 저런 거 좀이 지트쇼스 고스 전쇼데 다서 네 제수 나라야 네 겐간데 나신게 아니 지 글리식 참고 장이 여바바나 내가 수그 냠트 페드 냠트 좀이테 트나 디그레스
then let me know, especially if you feel strongly about neuroethics, because I'm probably going to write that paper.
아하. 다 제수나라야 아니 근처에 때문에 이게 첨부해서 다 디날 해군도 삼니티나 요파인바이나 아니 갈라 저와치로체스 다 가랑 오니 소미티 트리아치기 예스 아니 냠트 트나 디그레스
So, here I'll give another analogy. In science, sometimes there's the perfect experiment that you want to do, and then there's the experiment that you can do with the resources that you have.
아하. You can't do?
That you are able to do.
Okay.
So there's a perfect one,
Okay.
and then there's the one that you are
아하.
able to do.
다 가서 체리 좀 픽업 심바나 체리나 가려라나 지금 다 이양 탑픽이 딱세 지수수 진유 돼야지 그래서 아니 대 올라 가려래서 나 수수로 요피게 다 지금 튼친지거와 튼친til라테네 드트게 딱세 지금 그래서
So this list is not perfect, but it's good enough for us for right now.
아하. 다다나 될라야 투고 샤주데 코 베트 코라션 메 바양 다바테나 마레 심바나 단디 찰라야 가술고 딱딱 되기두스
So these are 8 core concepts, and they are identical to what you were presented last year, except that I've changed the emphasis.
아하. 단데 가수 나뉴르 치수 무토 치와타 치부 치창 레스코 로아 단데 나네 가술라 양치고 원수도 보통하게 체테 카치가 양 원수도 보즈요 마토베 젠다 양 난톤티 치파인스
Last year, we focused on 2, 4, and 7.
아하 나뉴르 바나 가수인데 나네 장카테로와 뉴아 시바 둠발라야 두난 지오레스
Are you driving now? No. I can't go back. I need to go back. There we go. Yes. This year, we're focusing on 1, 3, and 5, I think. Is that right? Yeah.
다 달루인 바나 가수인데 나네 당포체가 심바체가 와라 타게스
I think it's important to recognize that not all neuroscientists agree with every single statement.
아하 다달라데 가서야 나랑기 다 지금 학과에 가래서나 완전 새로가 참하게 될줄 사주들라 예 killen치기 요 말이스 참을 killen치기 요 말이스
But it provides a foundation for us to ask important questions.
아하 임바나야 아술라야 지트와 개첨부된다 당하게 지금 망신도 우치기다 구두지셔요레스
So the first statement, the brain is the body's most complex organ.
다 담보데 가래라 바이나 가수게 레파데 루푸나네 용정 치슈게 네 왕부트레스
Story time, a quick one. So when I checked into my room, they had the toilet paper, and the label on the toilet paper said the most luxurious toilet paper.
아하 다가 녀칸라 침바인스 녀칸 시스템발라 상초노네 다 상쇼테요라 쇼고테요라 쇼고테가라 양두 서티가틀레 민신 트샤요라 민신데가 칼라라 바이나 타베테 지투 치시게 아니 상쇼테인 랍샤스
So I took a picture of it, I sent it to my husband, and I was like, look, I found the most luxurious toilet paper.
아하 아니 그게 초콜라야 퍼시자 데탄데 탄탄인 잠 타베테 크로 다 지투 치시게 다 상쇼는 그 상쇼테 아니 손스 라바인스
And we spent way too much time arguing about what qualities they must have assessed to come up with the idea that it is the most luxurious. Did they check every toilet paper in the entire world?
다 그런 얘기 진짜 만포지게 당가 됐다. 다 디스고로 다 지투 치슈세고 알아. 지투 치슈 참 고야라야. 다 지투 치슈 시스템발라야 다 잠랑 간사 간세고 알아다. 딘다 지참 고야라야 네코 제취 카리고 그래서 데콜라야 베다 진짜 만포 당 치들라 제바인스.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time on the toilet.
That's so, but philosophically and scientifically, In order to make a statement like that, you would need to test every toilet paper.
다 천리기 삼을 땅땅간에 계시 셰파인바나 저런 게 계제 셰지 디나노지 셰기 체트 저런 게다 산쇼 참말라 딱세지 구글 왔어.
Okay? But we're not going to do that.
당아서 지게 메스데.
The brain is the body's most complex organ. We could test that.
따단다 델라일레 파네 루푸난가 정도 사슈게 왕보 드레스도 당아서 데 딱세지 그레스.
I mean, how many organs do we have?
가슬로 왕보 가세도스.
Yeah, your biology teacher is hanging out back there. Would he be proud of you if you knew how many organs we had? How many organs do we have?
가세요레스 가슬로야 왕보 가세요레스.
I don't know. Name some organs. What are some organs? Heart, kidney, liver, lung. What else? Brain, stomach, skin. Did you know your skin is the largest organ, right? What's that? Pancreas, intestines, oh, that's all part of a system, right? So if you're reviewing how we work, we have organs that are assembled into systems. And then each system is part of the organism.
Ngatsula wampola tene wampo malate wampo malala tene de ngatsu chingwi titu korwa chindende.
That is like, I can't bother.
No. I just translated what you said,
Yeah.
the last point.
Yeah. So the idea that the brain is more complex than any of those other organs we've listed is a little controversial.
Tanda delaya tanda ngatsu deshe jasa wampo ro ata tunga no tukola wampo chitanga je chitsi jaswa. Ta tela tigi nane sti samag nane ane nyokra sasu ti lepare sestambala ya tis tonyo yores.
So there's a famous scientist, Abraham Maslow, and he would always say, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Tanda ko cherupa kera chensle swa ro koge kala stambala keti choron thoachi yo paina ani choron ko thonse changman german ro thongre sare lagares.
So as a neuroscientist, to me, everything looks like the brain.
Ta wansa cherupa chimbe chane ngai bana chama lepa na jin thongo dos.
No, I'm serious. Even the bucket in my bathroom has a drawing on there, and I thought it looked like two hemispheres.
Ta thana ngarang des ta nyesa nyekana la tanda dela ya ane ko suwachi dus chusumchi dus tegala ya remochi tushas. Remote la ta bana ngasuga lepa ga dumshen do dus remote.
Yeah. I checked into a hotel, and there was a spot on the tile, and it looked like, to me, a brain.
Ta ko drunkan china dus to bayis drunkan la ya ko ge ta de sapasa ko drunkan tiga la ya spot la na ta nakthi do chi papchas dus ta ba la tiga zota de lepan do thonsons.
So I'll show you pictures. So tomorrow, when I put the slides together, I'll show you all the times I've seen brains out in the wild that have nothing to do with brains.
Ta sanyi zenda de trip kap ngarang ge tinda perjaju tinda de khachi yes tinda se jagins ta te ko pet ko lepa ton choni draw mechu lepa na je thwa chi goro tinda do ge ani su tinda khachi yes.
So no surprise that a group of 30,000 neuroscientists would say that the brain is the most complex organ in the body.
This tambala ya ani wansa sari pa sumchi ta tonto sumchi wa thi sumtin jom de de lepati ani ka nyongzo chashi ge wampore se tambala te ya chi ha song go min dos.
Another point that we make is that genetically determined circuits are the foundation for the nervous system.
Ta shenda chi kare se tambala de la ya nga chu ge rizzi ge tempe chi sha ju ge ta ku go lolam chi go wa ti kare se na nga chu wansa malak ke shiten ti re se shares.
So what this is saying is that your genetics, so your DNA, and all of the pre-programmed information about what's going to happen in your body, that is what drives our nervous system.
Ta de khas gore se tamba nga chu ge ta rizzi che nga chu rizzi te ka re tampo kro ta rizzi na na da ti kan za diksha ju wa nga sa sa ne da diksha ju ge ani rizzi te la te ne de te digi ne nga su wansa sen ke shele te kanza la khorong ge ta chi ni thend u chi gris gores.
So the building blocks of what your nervous system will be able to do is constrained by the genetics that you have.
Aha this tambala nga su wansa ge mala tanta wansa mala ke kare chi thu ma thie ge khu ge jis ge tripcha chi gorwa jis tricha ti kare chi ma chi te ni khorang tampu khro ka su gore ta nga su ge rigzi ge ni tangjin chi gris gores.
And this week I will introduce some genetics that are associated with sleep and circadian rhythms to make that point.
Aha ta ti nga tanda tun thade ka sim bana nga su ge ta wansa sen kana na nye ta tanda nga su ge ka sa lupu ge ta kholu chi gora tinjung kholu chi gorwa te tang je we ge ane nga su rigzi chi gorwa o ti kola yan de se yes.
And to reiterate the point about when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, I chose the sleep because I know you are working on sleep ideas as your research part of the sustainability phase.
Aha ta tange kheba te ge karsa ke te chorong la thuwa chi yo pa na chama ni jaga na jnang gre sa chi gorwa ti na sing ge ni tanda nga su ge jinta de kaps ani karsa di damya tirwa ani ge joshi ti damya te ne che chu kha chi ke ya chi nga su simjik chi ya ge ro ta se simjik chi ya ge joshi la ya nye ti damya chang tanda di dus triains.
But for every example we give you, remember that it is a model for how other things work.
Aha ta nga su kari thiba imba na ya kari chin desi ja ba imba na te ani shenda kanza ge kana ro chi chi ge yue me ge ta chi pi chen ro chi ro pi tuen tin da yes.
So I'm interested in sleep and I get excited about sleep, so I like to talk about sleep.
Aha ta nga ra ge ne ni ko ko la ye tu no yo ni ko la jung yo tin stam ba la ya nga ra ga ni ko thigins.
And that's a little dangerous because if you talk about sleep for too long, people start yawning.
Aha te nyen ka chembure da sorong ga ni ta ni ma pu la ta mi sama be ta aton jang gu zu sa sons.
And I've already seen some of you.
Ha kashi na this is.
Okay. So what I want for you to do is you don't all have to be excited about sleep, but I want you, whatever you're excited about, for you to be able to apply the process and the skills.
Aha ta ta chi chu chi ba na kha chi da ni ko la ken chi ni ko la ya chi tu na tu no yor wa ta ta nga su ge ni che chu cha ma la ya kari che ge ro chi ge yo se na ni che chu su su kari la tu wa ta ga u yo pa im ba na ni nga su tan de la thishin ko ta thala ma bu chi pe chu ngu tu chi ngor wa ti su su la kari tu no yo pa ta su su kari ga u yo pa te la ya pe chu tang sin ro ches.
So while we're talking to you and when you go to tea break, I want you to be thinking about what is the area in neuroscience that you think is most exciting.
Aha ta tanda nga su ke che she bi ka re de je la ya so cha person ta ro ta wi kap su sa chu person kap su ro e che su kari la ko gomba shi ro che se na che ra la chi ga ta chi tu no yue sa ro ga nang yue sa ge ne wan sa che ri ke ju shi kari me te ko la sam ta ro che.
If you could choose to wake up tomorrow morning being an expert in one area in neuroscience, what would that be?
Aha ta ke te san shu ba chora ni se stam ba la wan sa che ri ke ju shi ta pa chi ga gang la ya cheli khi pa chi gi jura ge ro tin ro yo pa na ju shi ta ya na ko ta wan sa che ri ke din chen kang gi chi ga din sa res chora chi che ki chni tu ya ge din chen chi go te ka rin sa res.
And it won't be the same for everyone.
Aha te samala chi chirong ma res.
But I think that's what's important about or interest is that it can drive curiosity and discovery.
Aha that is tambala tilaten de ta sama ta ko di yo marwa ka sa chi pa yo mar ta tilaten de ta me sama la su su ge ya du no man ro ta ga na man ro yong ya ge ta jin su te teres.
But some of the basic principles will apply no matter what the specific topic is.
Aha ane ko chi ge ju ji she ta pa kare ye me la ma tu ga ne mang shi ge chi trap sha kha chi sama la ya pe shu yong gro res.
So the next theme that we'll be discussing is theme 5 of the core concepts.
Aha ta ta de na ne ko ge ta zu ko ta na ne shen de ka ren se na nga ba ti yes.
Intelligence arises as the brain reasons, plans, and solves problems.
Aha ta ta de ka la ba na wa nga su ge lepa ge jinsen dem batane chershi dikpa ane kanyok ti sewi kapsa ngasu namchu the intelligence chigora namchu se ti yongu yores.
Intelligence is a very controversial topic in research.
Aha shinji ku kasa ngasu ga namchu se ti ko zonyok chengi joshi chires.
And so because of that, we only have 5 days together before you start teaching.
Aha dele ten de ngasu ge ta chechu ge tia ti jongda chia chi yor rate chechu ge tia ti ngu ma chung wala ngasu zonta tia ti nyama nga ma shi mares.
I'm going to stay away from the intelligence part and focus on the reasoning, planning, and problem solving.
Aha nyama nga ma shi me chang ngasu ka chi la na dejo tla namche se to ka namche se te ngasu ya me tang de ta phajo te la ya ane ko jinsen de batang changgo je batang tane ko kange se to ka o ti gi chashi te la ya ane tu no shi chue tre gi yes.
We just don't have enough time to explore intelligence, but we can definitely learn a little bit about reasoning, planning, and problem solving.
Aha da ngasu la ya chi ga namche se te ko la ya ne tu de chia tang ti ga ta ge tu su te men du si mai na ngasu ge chu tang de ta phajo te la ya sum du ga jinsen de batang ane charge de ga tang ne kanyo se ya chi do ga ti ko la ngasu chu tang de ta tu de chi yes.
So those are the 3 main themes we're going to be working on, but within that, there are many opportunities to think about specific issues in neuroscience.
Aha ta de nguto chi ande kala na ngasu ge chi ta chap chi bi ju shi sum ko la yes ta ti ge nan ko ne ane chi ya ko ju shi ro ba de na do la ya samla ta ta nguto chi ko ke te yong grace.
Okay. So last year, I gave you this exercise.
Aha nanyo lo ba na ngasu ge de jongsen de te ba yes.
And I want you to think about it. You're not formally doing it, but I wanted you to think about what you already know and then what are things that you still need to learn.
Aha da de la ya samla ta ro jes chesu kari chi ge shingu yo ba ta gange chi jangu yo me te ko la samla ta ro jes.
Okay. So this is different from the expert question, right? I want you to think about if you woke up tomorrow being an expert in one area, what would it be? That's one. But the other thing I want you to think about, to be the best science teacher, the best neuroscience teacher, what do you still need to learn?
Aha da de tangi ge twa te ta kha khare swa tangi ge twa de ke te san shuba chi ses tam bala ya wansa chen ke joji shita pa chi la ya ane ko cheki chage ba ne te kari ba sa chi goro joshi te kari ba sa te ya twa sha chi res te pha sha de ta dan de sam ta ba na ke ti seron chen ri ki gen chi ta wansa chen ri ki gen ya pu chi chan to ba na ne chorang ge jang gu ya gi ta se ta ane ko jang gu ya ge shi ti kar kari dus.
So as a guiding principle, and you think about what you still need to learn to be the best neuroscience teacher ever, do those fall into the category of concepts or a fact you can memorize or skills of how to do something?
Aha da tira do yamba na ke ti da wansa chen ri gi gen ya shu ti cha gu yo ba na ane chi da chi su la chi lam tun ru chi la ya ti na ne tang pu te la ya ko to se sta ba la ya ta di ka sa ta su se tri wa da wansa chen ka nam jala so par wa o ti ngi gu gre ti chi la ya den tun wa den ngi te kar inventing of ta chi re ane ti chi la ya se ti gu yo res.
So I've been talking for a long time, so I want to hear you. Someone should be able to tell me what's a concept in neuroscience, what's a fact that you know, or what are some skills that you can think about. I just want examples.
Aha da tanda de ka sanga ra ke cha this she chingor songs tanda de la ya che su na ne de ko la ya ne pichun tinda sonro chi das ko tok sana ane pichun kana do yores ne te ola ya denten la na ane pichun ka yore te ola se sana pichun ka re te do chingda se jaru chi das.
So spend a minute or so at your table talking about, and then each table should provide one thing, and it can either be a concept, a fact, or a skill that you would still need to learn. It doesn't have to represent everyone, but you just all agree that you're saying one.
Da kama chi ni chkana tele chu chu da jiro chesta dig di dire da ta ko to tang den ton ta se ti cheranga jangguya cherang kari chi te jangguya se na wansa chen gi gi ya shu ti cha gu na ne cheranga kari janggu re sa chi go wa ne chama chi ba yin gu ma re se ro chama da man ro yong go ro khashkana yin ba na chi su ngo ne chi yang thamang to yo ba na thamang ta ka chi ri de se ja ro chi is ro. Ta ka chiri chiri te kangi nan korda. Koto nan kore, dento nan kore, say nan kore.
So, 2 minutes.
Kamani is
Thank you. Thanks. I think we're a good team.
So I can't figure out what was not working about it. Because when I stuck it back in your, I stuck it in my computer just to see if it was a device. And like, it works fine. I stuck it in your computer and it worked fine. It's weird.
I just wanted
It's
a
like it
little
just wanted to
hard
see if
reboot.
my
He's like,
computer did it.
where's
I was like,
home? Where's
wait,
home?
I'm just gonna say.
Anyways, it's like a little word in comparison.
You're still on.
Oh, yeah. Recording. You have a concept, a fact, or a skill. Good. Pardon? You have to give a specific example. So, we need to learn how to find academic papers, or we to make experiments, or we need, right? So what is something you need to learn in a teacher for neuroscience? Skills. So for instance, a skill would be how to use the, it's on the mic, it's fine, it's recording. How to use the internet to find papers, academic papers, or how to design an experiment, that's a skill, or how to structure your class. These are all skills, right? But a fact would be how neurotransmitters work at the receptors. That would be a fact. You just need to know that. And then a concept would be more like genes determine behavior. So that's a concept, right? A fact would be the names of the parts of the brain. That's a fact. Like the frontal lobe is always the frontal lobe. It's just, that's a fact, right? And so those are the kinds of things like, what do you need to learn still? It's just very specific. Hmm? It's cleared up? Okay, good. It's okay if you have doubts. Remember, no silly questions. Everything is good. Good? Okay.
Oh yeah, tainda.
Some good conversation.
Aha, tutri apusiu na deshas. That is tainda.
One of the things I observed as I went to some of the tables is that you still had questions about what we meant by concept, fact, or skill.
Aha, that nga du sekolah jas tambala ya tuno chongate ka chongson system bala tanda de kapsanga suku ko to dentun se system bala ya de kare yementi kola ya chesula tondri dus.
So instead of going back over and redefining everything, I'm going to ask a table that feels confident about their concept, fact, or skill to share it.
Da tanda nga su de la ya ko to dentun se de gi kola ya nga su yonshe pando cheti machi gane ji magwe gane tanda de la ya ani chi rukha chi ngun ke te su su de do ngoto chi la de yo pa ma na ngoto chiro chi siro chi yes.
Actually, hang on, let me
Do
see.
they need to action? Do they
I'm
need
just
to?
skipping through here. I had a slide from last year that I wanted. This, right. So instead of going back and reviewing, we're just going to do, because once we start doing, then we'll know.
Tanga su chi ngoma de la tai chi tu ro ya son kan do rin dum de tai chi tu tanda nga su ga dup ko sro dup ai ban ne nga su ha ku res.
Yeah. So is there a table that feels confident about their fact, concept, or skill that they think they would need to be a great neuroscience teacher?
Da tanda chi tu na yo e so once chen pa chi once chen ki gi gen ya pu chi cha la go gi tanda ko to ta se sum yo wa o tu zu ko la ya ani chi de se ja ni de yo e ro ka.
las manzo ge tanda de koto da koto che an tambu koto do de nganzo pe cha na nganzo da yume do chi ji do chi ba ina da yo re sen da yo ma re sen de shi ge ni ma wu che ro ti yume ge nam ja yo re se da yo ma re se gi konzo gi dupse kha yin ba nam ja sho ngo che ya de ne concept do che tanda kharsa koto che ani ni yo de nganzo tanda den den se de ta tenyi ge nam ne demba de kandir se da me ba de demba yin sa di ha ko di den se o den de tenyi ge se se di suzo gi da di chola ya ne chi longri kharo la ten ni mixe gi jan she ge thumu ma yin bi chawa ro chi ro de ses
Na le. Tete onsa chen na ne dra da.
ma che da ne ko do dir se
Okay.
pe do sha
The driver. The example is maybe related with neuroscience, but the concept is we have the debate about self or non-self, and that's the concept.
Yes.
In the concept value, what are the stand to say there's self or there's no self? What is the stance? The understanding what the idea is, the concept, and then the fact. On the ground of fact, actually, as a Buddhist, we believe there's non-self. That is the fact.
Yes?
And for the skills,
Yes.
the evidences or the proofs that the quotations to be used to prove that thing, that is the skill.
Okay, very
So
good.
that's a general example, not
Very good.
actually related to
Okay.
neuroscience.
Nice, thank you. This table did very well. They did too much because they gave me a concept, a fact, and a skill. I just want one from each table. So we're learning by doing. So you did excellent, but you did too much.
Pema possessions, tangi chiri la yes, just pema possessions. Hello. Which one do you want?
So what I want to take there is the idea of self. The life sciences or the biology teachers have it easier because they can talk about immunology, and you can talk about how our body recognizes itself versus other.
Tanda tim bana chesu dak sa te ke chang stambala ya chichina nga su chingi sandu panane lapar to nga su ti orota nengor pawa yorwa nengor pawa kusu imbana chichi bana ti shela ya tap din khores karchi bana nengor pan ke chang stambala nga su nengoni gi ta ku ge tul tam mala chorwa te ge susu kari mentan jen kari musing yorwas.
So the body does have ways to recognize self versus other, and that's how infection works. So if you get something in your body that doesn't belong to you, your body will try to fight it because it's not self.
That is Nambalaya, Zupulaya, Susut, Maimbagi, Cholok, Putin, Munziagi, Jelichioris, that Tikarel Tambalaya, Natsukin Kasa, nyengkha te kanado nyengkha kanado jong manjong la te tela tene jong gores ta tigi kala na nyengkha chibi kapsa susu zupu mai bichulok chingu ching na lo zugo yorwa this tambala susu tang susu zupu tang jenda te aywa chi ag nibati yoris.
So I am not one to get into fights with someone who can beat me. So I will never argue with a Buddhist monk about whether or not there is no self.
Ta chigin ba na ngarangi lam kinchila ngaran du stepa mares tu ko karso gorta ngasun zingi ba na zingi mares ro atis tambala ya ani tanda ani nambi gindum ba chitan yam to no gindum ba dan to ni tagayo me ko sopa jag mes.
But there are some really interesting examples in neuroscience that can help to demonstrate why we think there is some self.
Imbe na ya swa ta wansa chenri ki ko ge netong khasila tene dete ngachu la ya ta sa te yu pi gin do shin zeni chi warwa o ti la ya yong ku chu pa ta ta jun sen tin da nga yores.
So there are actually conditions where there is damage in certain areas of the brain and the person is not able to recognize their own body parts.
Ta ya ko lepa ge chashi khachila ya ko chun shopala ten de miti ge susu ge zupu ge chashi musima thwa eni tan tin jong yores.
So as you're sitting in the chair right now, you know where you end and the chair starts.
Ta charan ta kucha gan de because bana ne kucha gan la ka takar sukor ta susu ta kucha ka samchi warwa in samti it kyores.
When you first put on your shoes, you know what's your foot and what is the shoe.
Ta charan ga hamko kombi kapsu susu ga kampa ta susu ga hamko ti ga yuatin jit kyores.
But throughout the day, your brain starts to recognize the shoe as part of your foot.
Ta nyuma dus tambala ya ani lepa karchi gres na ani hamko to susu ge te kampa ki chashi imbala ya engi chim gores.
So we have neuroscientific mechanisms that allow us to experience what is me and what is not me.
Ta tanda wansa chari kinane roa tanda nga chu wansa chari kinane ko tanda nga kari imbata nga kari member gi ngunjin che gi litsu chi roa te wansa chari tanda ibli se tanda yores.
And a lot of what we learn in neuroscience very often came from conditions where things didn't work the way they were supposed to work.
Ta tanda dina do yongate kare system balaya nga chu wansa ta ching dina do imba na dina do jonggu re se gi chachin tan dina do sha pa imba na yong ku tak tak ma chong wala te de roa ni tan dina jonggu yores.
And there are dramatic examples of people who have brain damage who, for instance, will think that the leg in the bed with them is not theirs and they'll try to throw their leg out of the bed.
Da tina do pitsun picha sha pa imbana khashi ge lepa ge chashi chila ya karsa chun sho pala tene te ko ta ni bi kapsu ge koranga kampa te susu ga kampa membala chor dete ni kampa te phala ya yuya ge chi thapsi tanga ge tinda pitsun yores.
So what we're going to hope that you'll be able to do as a neuroscience teacher is to recognize what those examples and stories are and how you can apply it so your students can understand that there are parts of the brain that regulate what is part of you and then what is external to you.
That things dambala ya chesu ge tandanga su wansa chen kana ni ro tanga su ge susu chashi kare yemen tang susu mai bai chashi kare men ngunjin chia chi ro o tinda do te cherang ta jima jinda thi pai bai na ani tinda do kaps titan je we ge ni dron tang pesun tinda yo ro o tinda do ju chi and desi ja thu ba chi gures.
And that does not have to disrupt your Buddhist understanding of the self.
This tambala ya ti chebala tene de tanga sunang chunang ne tag ye me gi chupa che tang munji che chi warwa o ti la ya ne ko ge tu phono ru maris.
So based on the facts of the cases that we have, you are able to explore a concept in neuroscience without disrupting your other training.
Tanga sula chi nye ge pan ta ta ani den den chi warwa ti la shi sha de ta nga chu wang sa ser no na yo pi ge ku tok chi ko la ya ndu tok chi chi yo res. Ni cheba imba na ti la ten de ta ani nang chu ge su su ge ji ko lan tang tang chi ta pin zen chi warwa ti la po thot ru maris.
So the skill you would need would be to be able to find those stories, narratives, videos to be able to explore the concept.
Da tila gua ge che kare system bala ya tila doya ge ni don tang pitsun tang ni nyela so pa tse de terwa ni tan de churung de se ja de pan de se ta ta ja thya ji yorwa ti ta tse teres.
What do you think?
Kanda dus.
Yes? How did I do? Good. All
Kanda
right.
nonsense.
Okay, let's hear. So the next tables, I don't want to be so thorough. I want one thing.
Mampo shem gus jima tele chik shero chis.
Yes, because we have 15 minutes before tea break, so let's go.
Yeah, nganzo chibaina tanda brain gi the fact o chajan mambo duro ine chigla waina pina nganzo gi labor di la gonza chigora di gejang issue zuku gi gejang issue chik labor chiku gasa ge dus pina nganzo gi zuku nolo la chida wangbo denji denge chida mi zubu nolo la dina na labor chikbu de gi zuku gi da nuba gi gejang issue chik zagi yores the di demo do chira the di skill do che shawaina pina nganzo gigdo da dine ga so lobjon chebe ka so ta tuzo thung
Kanchi.
Right, yeah. I see it happening already.
Yeah. The fact, the fact, we have about like 70 organs in our body.
Yes.
And the brain takes about 20% of the energy we consume. That's a fact.
Yes, very good fact. Yes. And that actually drives a concept, which is if it is using up so much glucose, so much energy, so much oxygen, it must be important.
Da tanda ge kurang ko soa ge den ni chura den tela tene de nga chu ko to chik ne ton te deshi ja gores keti nga su lepa ge kurang ni pat ani gulungarjila so patina mampo chi shu pe chu tang yo paina ani ti ke chen bu chi ingres ge ni chi ko to ton ta se ti du strong gores.
Very good.
Pe abudus one more or two more.
Yeah,
Two more?
and like our group thinks that like we need to learn skill to become a good neuroscience teacher, and the reason is that while teaching neuroscience we have like very limited like tools and materials because like when we explain different like pathways or tracts in the brain, like we can only show them the photos or videos, and we have like and we can do like very less activity or demonstrations, and also it's very difficult to get like the brain sections or the brain slides to show. So how can we improve as a neuroscience teacher, improve our skill sets to be a better teacher?
Excellent. Do you
Da
want-
tanda ni bana nga su technological chi son system bala wansa sere gi ge ya pu chi cha la ya ke chua te nga su ge set ku du sta ro set ku du kar chila pa bana nga su ge chi ta wansa sere ke na ne ta chi la pe ge cha shi re tina do te ya ta ani kurang na la ya ne lok ko jalam ta ta ge jalam ka do yo pa ne ta ma pu chi de se ja ko wa ti tang de se ja ya la ya te che tu ani ko la ya se ti ta ke chen bu chi cha dus.
So one very important point that you raised is you need the skills but also the resources.
Ta tanda ko deshi jabag na ne chuke chi shi chi tampote ka reses na bala nga sula chete ku gundu sinye patela ya tina ji thunchen la ku du se ati ke ne to kenche chi lan sons.
So you might have the skill, but if you don't have the actual resource, it will be very difficult. So being able to identify what you're missing, what you need, will become a very important part of being a teacher.
Ta ge ge cha bala ke ti chorong la chi yo pa na thunchen man zona yo marwa stin stam bala ya susu la ya ta karsa chi yo pa na susu la ti thia tang genge ta thunchen tang goya ti ma sam pa na ko khapu chak yo res.
Looking, I actually have a slide. Where is it? Oh, no. I thought I had a slide that indicated. No, can't find it. All right. No, I was just looking if I had it already translated. Come on. So the Emory Tibet Science Initiative absolutely wants to support you in whatever way we can. So you have the website with the resources, but if you're looking for slides and that sort of thing, every effort to try to support you in the way you want. The important part would be you recognizing what you need.
hata emery to pitch sari rengi tanda chisula guya ge chigata jucha chigorwa te kanza kasa kola kutu chisha yoris rwa trathola mampo yoris ne tili ke chwa te kalana chechu susu la ya kari gugundu se chechu mushia te ke chimchak yoris.
And so when I asked you about facts, concepts, and skills, I should also have resources on that list. So I thank you for that edit.
Tanda te kapsa nga sugi ta ko to ta che ta ani ti tishi jabarwa ko den ko sun je tishi jabarwa an te ga la ya tanda nga sugi ko ge ta kar sugi ju cha sa chigorwa ta ko tunchen sa chigorwa o te le jar gudus.
Oh, gone?
Sorry, I was going to
Yeah. And in fact, weeks before we come here, they ask us what resources we need, what tools we need, what activities we're going to do, and we're supposed to send that ahead because we do recognize that these are really valuable parts of the science education experience.
That is the manga so tela manga ya ani gela ju kusula ya tunchin kar gudu ani lacha kar gudu ju kejet response tis tabala ya ani chi tunchin te ani kar sugreta chenri ki thopsu gna ni ko chachin ke chim chak yores.
And do you see what Michael just added this while I was talking? It's a dynamic process. So we don't come in here expecting to know everything that you need. We make a best guess, and then we take feedback and we incorporate it, and you will do that as science teachers too.
Hanta dada de la ya thong sa singi shejin sheshe ke Michael ke de la ya ko trisha swas da dis tambala nga su lom sin thia ta ti ri ti kanza tanda de ko jin jwa me pa tembu tinda maris kun jwa dembe gi jurum chi chag yores chesu gigen thari gigen jibe kapsan ti nangu res ro ko ge chu ta ko ga niwa tang kun jwa tang ya ji tang dugu yores.
So as an educator, very often we have the impulse to think that we know more than the students.
Tanga su chi ya chi shiun ti ma ko ro ti chi mi chane nga su tang pu de la ani nga su yang se samlo kar ko gre se na so tri le ta ni ma sing ye se ti samlo ti ko gre.
And very often we do.
Chirgi ba na ta pe chola nga su xian sing yo res.
But it is very important to maintain some humility. So as an educator, as a science teacher, your students might come in with something that you don't know and you can incorporate that.
That is Tambala nga su chi su kar su reta khangchong ya chi gwa ti ke chemu cha go re sam la ya chi che ba ban lop tri ki ni chang ma shi ya tin da ko la mutu chi ya tin da yong se ba re tin Tambala ya ti ni tang ti kap su nga su khangchong chi de ti chi su ma shi ya lop tri ki ya go shi ya ti zu yang ko nyam tu chi da de chi go wa o ti yang chi gu res.
So science is very different from your Buddhist constructs that have been around for hundreds of years, right? We are constantly changing and evolving, and so we have the flexibility to add and subtract and update because we get things wrong all the time, and then we just keep correcting it as we keep going forward.
Tanda charity tanga suge na bigi ko talu jathama boyo bigi region de smando res ngasu chari by na ko yonshin jira tanshin sawa nyeshin go res this tambalaya kanun chia ta kuma the ta ji yaje ta ge ne ta te shu chamu ngong res sarkanala.
So it's a practice.
This tambalaya ta ku jonda chi chagi res.
Excellent, thank you. Is there another table that wants to share just before we go to break?
Ngoto chini ki rukadila yo esa, chi sonro chi da? Akalak da. Kaya ma, ke chenpu jasha ta kurta.
You need the mic?
Koto, For our group, the most important from this is the concept. For instance, if you understand the concept of action potential, and you can plan your lessons according to that, with the activities, with the other stuff that you can deliver the lesson
Yes.
well. if you understand the concept.
Very good. So, as you are all still learning neuroscience and reviewing, you will have to let us know which concepts you need reinforcement, which concepts you need us to refresh, which concepts you need us to remind you about, because that's going to be very important as you are teaching.
That the kitchen is that typical luncheon typical go toke kolaya susulaya ta sheto yapu yo ha yapu kuya tication muchago is this tambalaya and also do jump cups and chesu ngasulaya ta chi transu tata trati tano chase the koto kangi once a second on a koto kari kolaya chesulaya yanchir ko kasezu gudu kashim banayanko karta yanchi tensu lango do kashim banan gunyu yo bana kaseuzu gudu la sobate and chesu. Okay. So, you wanted to share? Yes, please.
Tanda nganzo ruba nalo tanda koso da tisi dokjo ro charo do. Kasa nganzo di nalo tanda cel de skill de keshi charo do. Tanda nganzo soso tanda lotu jire de maum soso gen chaba in baina tanda nganzo dishing go se de kasna ani lotu ma ta loma sol ma thiegi thagam jora ta cel de ता पेना थंगबो खारे गांजो खारे केचे मुचा ना लोमा दिगे टोनांग ले ले छेंगी कोना नानो वांगजा जी में वांगजा दिल टोनांग ले दी चेल जी थोनी टोनांग ले सो बुरा ओति पे केचे मुचा दो दे चुंबाई ना अने कोजो जुंदा नानो खोजो ट्रेन दा दिनेस जे दिगे रिबसन योंग दो से दी ता दिने चेल दिया सुसु लोमा सुसु निरे छोआ दा जवाई बे थोनी दिने की जेयो की थोनी चेल दी दिने की टुनांग दे ओति पे केचे मुचा दो सो ओति से
The idea we have in our group is opposite the one that they have shared. We think the skill is the most important part of it because at the moment we are students, but in the future we will become teachers who will teach. We need the skills to encourage the student to engage in the class and also make them have fun learning science. So that skill. We need that skill to in our not only in teaching but in our daily life to just enjoy whatever you are learning or teaching.
Wonderful. I would say that the fact that you recognize that makes you already a good teacher.
Thank you.
And in some regard, your expectation to teach in the monasteries already has the dynamic of that familiarity built in. Actually, I find because of your training in debate and your community, you already know how to engage people. And I encourage you to make sure or to consider that your science classes don't have to look like your Buddhist studies classes.
And
you can try different things, you can experiment, you can play around. And you also have to recognize not everyone is going to be interested in what you're talking about. But they still have to take it because it's on the Geshe exam now.
What?
They still have to take the class because it's on the exam now.
This time,
but you won't be able to please everyone all the time. One of my favorite translators loves physics, and he would have to translate neuroscience, and he had no care in the world about neuroscience, but you just have to do it.
tanda kejir chi de this koran bana kasa ngasu ga ngimkam sari la gaw yores ta khu ge tanda jati singa onsa sari jirgo yores na onsa sari kin jikta tsu khu ga ta pet ko ya ko chigo mata ina ijra jirgo yores.
So the 1 minute between now and tea break, do you have any questions or anything you want to ask just before we go?
Kamachi dus draw your esa.
No, go have tea. Touch your leg.